there's some breaking news that we have to start with. A little bit off topic, but maybe not so much. Reuters has just reported, and what they're reporting is that Iran is very close to a deal with China to purchase anti-ship cruise missiles. This, of course, is just as the United States is getting ready to deploy a vast naval force, or already has, to the Iranian coast ahead of a possible attack on Iran. It's a little off topic, but Victor, would you comment on this for us? Because we're talking about Chinese, they're called CM-302 missiles, described as supersonic missiles. They have a range of about 300,000 kilometers. They're designed to evade shipborne defenses they go really low down to almost the surface of the water and then can rise again. Did I say something? 300, yes, kilometers. Victor, what do you make of this? What should we think of this? What does it say?
Thank you very much. Both China and Iran are two fully independent countries with their sovereignty. And there is no international law which prohibits China and Iran to engage with each other in commercial transactions. And China happens to produce some of the most sophisticated missiles of all kinds. And it's absolutely right for China and Iran to size up each other and engage in whatever economic and commercial transactions they desire to do that, including involving such military missiles. And I think the whole world should be put on notice that both China and Iran will have full sovereign right to do such commercial transactions with each other, and no country should pretend to be surprised.
But given the timing of what's going on right now, those sound a little bit like fighting words. Pascal, you want to take this?
I mean, to me, this sounds very much like China is sending a very, very clear message, which is that if there will be a war, it will certainly be a missile war, right? The way that we've seen it in June last year during the 12-day war. That was not fought with boots on the ground. It was not fought with ships on the sea. It was fought with the missiles that were flying over these other countries. This time, if the United States intervenes, of course, there are going to be missiles on the sea, but there are going to be ships on the sea, but those ships are going to be just as vulnerable to missiles. And China just made it very clear that if the missile war happens, and if it takes quite a bit of time, like the Ukraine war, if it's not done within a couple of weeks, then Chinese missiles will be ready to be supplied. So it's not just the Iranian capacity to produce missiles, it's also the capacity of China to supply them. And, this will take time. Operating these missiles will take time, but the political signal is very clear.
Therefore, let's really clarify who is at fault, who is not at fault. Iran is not threatening war against the United States. It's the United States threatening war against Iran. So how can you say, now that Iran is being threatened with war and military confrontation by the United States, therefore you should not export missiles to Iran? It's just the opposite. The United States should stop threatening Iran with war and engage with Iran in peace, rather than in such military jingoism.
Speaking of the United States, they're certainly very much involved militaristically with Japan of late. And there seems to be this charge that we heard at the Munich summit just a little while ago that Japan seems to be over-militarizing itself, and China is sending them this message that you heard just a little while ago in no uncertain terms. Does China have a point, Pascal, when it makes that warning to Japan?
Yes, it does. I mean, China clearly has very, very bad memories of Japan, and we must never forget all of the crimes that were committed in China, mainland China in the north, the millions of people who died during the 15-year war, 1931 to 1945. And we must not underestimate just the sheer emotions that any form of Japanese militarism invokes in China. On the other hand, when we try to understand what recently happened, we also must keep in mind that what Prime Minister Takaichi said was clearly a breach of protocol. It was clearly something that even Mr. Abe before her, the long-serving right-wing prime minister, never actually said. And she did so, but she did in the context of being questioned by the opposition party. I still interpret it as a slip of the tongue. Not that she didn't think so, she does, but that she said so was clearly unwise. But it kind of unleashed a box of Pandora on, especially because in China, this cannot be interpreted in any other way.
It's, Victor, that the Japanese are, in fact, militarizing to a dangerous or threatening level?
Let me really go to the jugular of this issue. I think what Prime Minister Takaichi did and said in recent weeks and months is tantamount to Japan's attempt to deny the ironclad verdict of Japan's unconditional surrender to China and other allied countries, including the United States and the former Soviet Union and the United Kingdom, because Japan unconditionally surrendered. And there are terms for Japan never to constitute another military threat against China. Otherwise, they will be in breach of their unconditional surrender terms, and China, being a victor nation, has the absolute full right to strike at Japan to prevent the rise of Japanese militarism or neo-Japanese fascism, period. That's carved in the United Nations Charter. If you read the enemy state clause, it specifically clarifies China's right to use unilateral military might against Japan to prevent Japan from constituting another military threat against China, especially if Japan dares to arm itself with nuclear weapons. I've declared on many occasions, the moment Japan possesses nuclear weapon will be the moment of the annihilation of Japan as a state. Period. No politician, including Prime Minister Takaichi, should indulge in fantasy that they could be allowed to militarily arm itself to constitute another threat or to threaten war against China, which is a victor nation, and Japan is the unconditionally surrendering country back in 1945. We should keep this in historical perspective, and mankind as a whole should unite to deny Japan any chance of remilitarization and constituting another militaristic or fascist threat to China. China lost 35 million of our countrymen at the hands of the Japanese militarists. Should anyone really expect that China should allow the re-rise of Japanese militarism and neo-Japanese fascism? No way. Prime Minister Takashiki, wake up from your fantasy. You should never be allowed to rearm yourself to constitute another threat to China or to Russia or to Korea, for example, or to the United States, because we all need to remember Pearl Harbor. Never forget Pearl Harbor.
Rule number one.
Pearl Harbor. Never forget Pearl Harbor.
I just want to make sure I heard you clearly, because I think what you just said will likely make news. You're saying China has the preemptive right to strike Japan, and not only has the right to do so, but will do so if it feels that Japan is over-militarizing. Is that what you say?
Absolutely. That's authorized in the United Nations Charter regarding the enemy state clause. It is specifically stipulated that the enemy state, which includes Japan, if they dare to rearm itself to constitute a military threat against a victor nation, which includes China, then the victor nation has the right to use preemptive military might to prevent that remilitarization or neo-Japanese fascism from raising its dangerous head. It's carved in stone. It's part of the international order that we are living through. So no one in the world should pretend that they are ignorant of this enemy state clause contained very secretly in the United Nations Charter.
Just one final question.